Do you think 49-year-old Terrell Owens should be on the field?
Hold on. Who's in your research department?
Let's welcome to the podcast Brandon Marshall, 6-time Pro Bowl NFL player, wide receiver extraordinaire, entrepreneur, and now mental health advocate. He recently launched his new app, House of Athlete Plus, that's doing extremely well. Encourage you to check that out. In this conversation, we talk all things mind, body, his transition from being a pro athlete to civilian life, and even the crazy things that go down in NFL locker rooms. And he does have a special message for 49-year-old Terrell Owens. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Let's get started. Whoop.
We're about to launch a 5-day-a-week show live, streaming live every day.
Wow. That's hard. Streaming is hard.
Well, instead of me going on ESPN, I can do it on my channel.
Okay.
Right? So,
yeah.
Like I was doing a 5-day-a-week show on FS1. I'm like, I'd rather do it on my own.
Exactly. So that's the same reason why I went to social media, because I would try and go on TV and they'd be like, oh, you're a young doctor. You don't know what you're talking about. We're going to have our people say it. I'm like, well, fine. I'll just do it on my own.
Right.
And it became really successful. What made you not want to do the FS1 or ESPN and then do it on your own?
Well, one, I'm an entrepreneur. And two, I feel like we're overdue for a space where athletes can sit down and feel comfortable.
True.
It's really simple. Look at Skip Bayless, Damar Hamlin dies on the field.
Yeah.
Okay. Brought back to life. And while he's still on the field, he's tweeting about the NFL and what they need to do because of the playoff implications.
Yeah.
And all the athletes were in an uproar. So those athletes that now no longer want to sit on Skip's show, where do they go? And that's the opportunity for creators like myself, and there's others in the space. I think a lot of people are building out podcasts. We're building out a platform, right? Like I imagine a world one day where I'm not in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Right. Hopefully in 2 to 3 years, right, we have several athletes as contributors and partners on our platform.
How did you feel with the whole Damar situation when it first happened?
One, I thought he was gone. And I thought he was gone because I've never seen on the field in my 13 years at the highest level in the NFL, played for 25, 26 years. I've never seen athletes cry that way, hug that way, embrace that way, right? And when they mentioned CPR, I've never experienced any of that, whether on a practice field, game field, in a locker room, no sports setting. I've never seen that. And that's when I thought, it was the worst.
What was the sentiment around players as to what they thought happened? Or was there clear sort of knowledge about what was going on?
Well, a lot of us at home didn't know. So it was a lot of speculation. Shady McCoy is one of our contributors to our platform. He actually played in Buffalo not too long ago. So really close to people in the organization still. So there's details that still haven't come out as far as like what was happening on the field, what was going on with him in that moment. They took off his face mask, and all of that. And so like there's a couple of people that kind of knew what was going on, but wanted to respect his privacy in the situation. He's a human being at the end of the day. So I think players on the field absolutely knew. Bengals, Bills absolutely knew. They wouldn't have handled the situation that way. Even the coaches wouldn't have stood up and said, we're not playing. We can't play, right? So it's pretty cool to see how the guys have galvanized. This has galvanized the guys. People have come together and still pushing the conversation forward of like, how do you make the game safer? Is there any other ways that we could, lean into prevention? And then what can we do for players moving forward?
Who was the first person that texted you when you saw that?
Well, it wasn't a text. It was Russell Wilson.
Wow.
Russell Wilson tweeted, right? I was en route to go in studio to jump on our show and then watch the game live and actually start driving probably like 15 miles per hour faster because Russell Wilson, the way he tweeted, it wasn't just like prayers up for Damar.
Yeah.
It was a little bit more, and I don't know his exact tweet, but there's a little bit more behind it. And I was like, man, like this doesn't sound good, right? I'm thinking, and I was thinking, was there a bone or something sticking out, right? Like,
do you think it's more like a physical,
right? Like something really gruesome and nasty,
traumatic,
not just like an ACL or a concussion, right? Although concussions are
they're very
a big
serious,
deal, but something that make you, oh my goodness, right?
So this was significantly worse. I'll tell you how I felt as a medical professional when it happened. Watching it, obviously gruesome. I had much of the same emotions you just described. For me, I gave pause into saying, we don't know what's going on here. We don't know his medical history. That's his privacy. We don't know what happened immediately before the game. There's so many unanswered questions. And yet you had so many people ready, not even to speculate, but almost with like this confidence saying, this is what happened.
That's right. That's right.
And I'm like, well, pause. Like, we don't know that this happened. Did that bother you that people were jumping to these conclusions, or were you like, they're trying their best?
Yeah, I think that's what we usually do. It didn't bother me. I literally was just focused and locked in on him.
How he's doing.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I think that's what made this moment special as a former athlete and as athletes, right? Where it was like standing up to linear television, all of these reporters are people saying this or that. It was like, no, the only thing that matters is this kid's life.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, even in the sports world, from a media standpoint, talk radio, we couldn't talk about anything until we knew he was okay. Literally for a week. So we're on Sirius XM and, we're sitting with, the Steve Cohens of the world, and they're like, guys, we think that the only thing we can talk about is Damar. Like, it doesn't even feel right talking about anything else. And you saw that across all networks. And that was pretty powerful. But it shows how powerful our voice is as athletes when we come together.
Yes.
Right? Separately, doesn't matter. You're going against 32 billionaires.
Yeah.
Okay? And a whole institution, a whole machine. But we are the product.
Yeah.
Right? If we come together, how much stuff can we get done? Right? And so I think this was a powerful moment for athletes because it united us.
And that's sort of what you're doing with I Am Athlete, with your facility, with talking about mental health and its combination and effects on physical health.
Yep.
Do you feel like you're getting buy-in from your fellow players?
100%, because this is the one thing that's so organic and real to us, right? Our cultural currency is probably the best in the business. What I mean by that is we have billions of followers collectively.
Yep.
All right. We touch the entire world as athletes, and we're using that cultural currency to build companies like Gatorade or the Nikes of the world, the ESPNs of the world. But the one thing that is so organic and something that we can be thought leaders in, we don't really participate in, and that's wellness.
Yep.
From a business standpoint, it's a $4.3 trillion industry. And I truly believe we're the healthiest people on the planet.
Yeah.
Right.
Why do you think that is? Where's the disconnect there?
Well, one, the sexy opportunities as athletes is like, what are we wearing? There's some tech opportunities, what we're drinking.
Sure.
But as far as like our actual routine, our lifestyle, how do we eat? How do we sleep? How do we stay mentally fit? Like all of those things is what keeps us in peak shape and help us get to peak performance, right? Yeah. And there are people every single day that are following trends and fads because they want to live better. They want to feel better.
Yep.
Well, we do this every single day.
Yeah,
An athlete can tear up his MCL or hurt his MCL, right? And have a scope, be back on the field in 10 to 14 days in front of 70,000 people live, millions of fans watching. And then you see some people, right, that may be on crutches for 3-4 weeks,
yep.
Right? The general population. Now, do we push it to the limit because we have to at times as athletes? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm so sick and tired of seeing people live in pain, train in pain, right? Like athletes walk in and be like, oh, my VMO's out or my left glute is out, so I got to do this to fire this because if that doesn't work, this is going to go out. I wish everybody had that type of access and that type of understanding of the human body.
Yeah.
It's all about performance.
Yep.
even I mean, you're performing when you're outside with your kids, and you just want to pick up your kids.
Yeah.
Right.
I have that same mentality as a doctor, that whether you're 5 years old or 105 years old, I'm going to treat you like an athlete. Because if someone comes in and they're 105 years old and they're off balance, I'm going to get them on a rehab program just like I would as an athlete who had an MCL tear. Or I have a patient who has a diagnosis of Parkinson's.
That's right.
And they're having trouble with their balance. Same approach. We're treating them like an athlete. Because the human body responds to that level of training.
That's
And I
right.
think athletes get it the best. But at the same time, maybe put an overemphasis on the physical aspect of the training, but then forget
good.
about all the recovery aspect. Because if you look at what's hot in the fitness world, like let's say in the last 10 years, it's those Nike shirts that say go faster, go harder, go longer. I'm a beast. There's no finish line. And it's like, yes, that's sexy. But is that real life?
That's right.
And I feel like you could attest to that way better than I can
Right.
Because you're an athlete.
Absolutely not. It's so funny when you walk into, I was drafted by the Denver Broncos, was there for 4 years, played for the Miami Dolphins for 2. I was traded there. Then 3 years in Chicago, loved Chicago, amazing experience. Because I wanted to get into media, go to the #1 media market in the world, capital of the world, and that was New York.
Yep.
So I played for the Jets and the Giants. I was here for 3 years. And, any of those locker rooms, when you walk in those facilities, you'll see more guys in the recovery parts of the facility than the actual weight room or on the field, right? Okay. Like you may walk in now, what time is it? It's around 6 o'clock right now. Pretty much most of the guys are gone, right? Or can be gone as far as like on a schedule, but you'll walk into the hot tub, cold tub, the steam room, sauna, may go in the training room, and see guys in there doing things. There's guys in there from 5 a.m. to sometimes 9 p.m. at night.
Wow.
Right? Just recovering. And then when they go home, they're doing more, right? Because our goal as an athlete is, pretty much, or the name of the game, I should say, is recovering for the next day.
Yep.
Right? Because it's easy to be a one-hit wonder, and it's like, anybody can run a great route or catch a ball or run somebody over once. Can you do it play after play, day after day, year after year? And that's why recovery is so critical, right? It's like, okay, you work your ass off every offseason to get to peak shape, to hit peak performance, and then now you're trying to maintain and stay there. And there's ebbs and flows to that. And the recovery is the most critical part. Hydration, sleep is important. We've been leaning a lot into sleep lately. Mental health is the most important part, okay? And then the other things as far as the modalities that we use and working with different gurus when it comes to, the skeletal system, to, muscles and, all of that stuff. There's so many layers of the body, and there's literally experts that focus on every single layer. So as an athlete, you got to find who they are and work with them.
That's a
and
task,
fit it into
man.
your schedule. But
That's
we
tough,
get paid full. We get paid to do that. That's our job. We do that 9 to 5, right? So what I love about what a lot of groups are doing today is like, how do we take that, modify that, and scale it for the general population?
And we need that. For me, I'll tell you what you probably don't know this, but I became a professional boxer this last year.
And a professional barista.
Exactly. That's only for you. But I became a professional boxer, and I ended up fighting on Showtime pay-per-view. Actually, I don't know if you saw Le'Veon Bell's fight.
Yes.
I was the fight right before him.
Fucking beast.
At Beast. He's actually a really nice guy. I got along with him really well.
You got to get him on the show.
Cool dude. He's definitely coming on the show. He just hasn't been in New York, but he's awesome, dude. What I realized in doing the training for the full year is I don't understand, where is the line between pushing yourself, oh yeah, I'm just sore, versus my whole mind, body is fatigued, and I would be better off with my performance if I took a break versus pushed on and did that extra workout.
Yeah.
How do you balance that?
That's tough right now, but a lot of teams and a lot of leagues are leaning into that. Right now, we're starting to use data. We're starting to use GPS. So we're starting to track this stuff every single day. The problem is, the players, we want that, of course. And there's people within the teams and these organizations that understand that science, technology is critical and is the way.
Yeah.
But what about Bill Belichick? And I'm not saying he doesn't, embrace this. I don't actually even know what his philosophy and his approach to this is. But he's been around the game. You can call him a dinosaur. He's still the GOAT, but he's a like goat dinosaur. But he's like he's a dinosaur, like goat, whether a damn dinosaur or goat. Goats and dinosaurs don't care about data and analytics.
Yeah. Well,
you
does
understand?
he? I don't know. Maybe he does.
But the Sean McVays of the world, they do.
Yeah.
You understand, these younger coaches that get it, the next generation, right? So that is the battle, is that you have some people still in our sports today that's still about what you said, finish strong, fast.
So they do push that extra thing for no reason.
Yeah, but every team, I would say this was different, right? When I first got in the league, we didn't have this, but every practice, every game, we all have GPSs on, and we're tracking all of our output. We're tracking everything, and so there's some organizations that does it well. Aaron Wellman, Dr. Aaron Wellman, now he was the head strength and conditioning coach with the Giants. When I was there, he was one of those guys that would come walk on the field and be like, hey, your output is way too high right now. We want to cut your reps by half today, or we're going to sit you, right? Because they're looking at those numbers and they know if you're in this area, that's danger zone. You're ramped up too high.
So they're probably looking at your heart rate, your weight loss, how much water weight you've lost, everything, all of that.
Everything.
See, like we don't have this in the Gen Pop. Like we don't have cool statistics. Maybe a heart rate monitor or a sleep tracker. But the problem with the general population is getting those statistics sometimes just creates a flood of information without knowledge of how to use it.
That's right.
Even for me as a doctor, sometimes patients come in with some of the information off their smartwatches, and I'm like, I have no idea what to do with this because I don't know how this applies to you and your performance. Like I need to follow you for a longer period of time.
That's right. That's why I think the biggest thing for us right now, until we get there, because it's needed, is the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Tracking hydration, right? Like performance decreases by 25% if we're dehydrated. Fucking drink water.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard, yeah.
Your brain literally detaches from your skull when you're dehydrated. What the hell does that do to your emotions and everything else going on, right? Like these are things that are really happening. Sleep. 4 hours of sleep opposed to 8 hours of sleep. And if you average 8 hours of sleep, 7 to 8 hours of sleep for 6 to 8 months, it's like freaking being on steroids, some people say.
Yeah.
Right? It's so powerful.
Yeah, well, because sleeping 4 hours a night just reduces your peak performance time, your reaction time, your creativity, all things that you need as a route runner, as a quarterback.
So now let's go to forget that.
Yeah.
Now let's go back to the weekend warrior there, the nurse, the doctor, the entrepreneur, the creator, right? The YouTubers of the world, not Snapchat. I don't know if they're still
they're out there. We got Snapchat.
Yes, I love you guys, Snapchat. TikTok. Okay. Right, the TikTokers of the world, right? Like creativity, like I'm trying to entertainers, like how do they stay right there? Sleep.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like,
I've heard Kevin Hart say some 5 hours of sleep. I'm like, Kevin, what are you doing, man?
Right, because you're asking like what should we be tracking right now? And that's what we could be measuring.
Yeah, the basics.
Right. So you have the Oura rings of the world. So sleep is important, and then you have nutrition as well. Like right there, those three things you can turn into a superhero. Yeah. Right? Just to be the best version of yourself. Yep. And so that's like, all right, how are you performing in this space as a nurse, as a TikToker, as an entrepreneur, Isn't
it crazy? Like you would think we're sitting here having this high level conversation. You've been on the highest level of the game, 6-time Pro Bowler. And yet we're still saying sleep, drink water, take care of your mental fundamental. That's still what we're talking about. And yet we can't do it.
Fundamentals, and even I mean, we can't do it.
Isn't that great? Like that's the simplest things, and yet we mess it up all the time.
That's right.
Why?
One, I think there's awareness, right? Like if I wasn't a professional athlete, I wouldn't be sitting here talking like this. Yeah. Hell, I may be overweight because probably 80% of the people, where I'm from are obese, and they don't, I've never seen anyone in my neighborhood growing up running and jogging. Like, hey, Mr. Sam, fucking running a mile or two. Sure, if somebody did that, like, what is wrong with that person?
Where'd you grow up, by the way?
Running. Huh?
Where'd you grow up, by the way?
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, East Liberty.
Yeah.
So, but it's like deviant, right? It's counterculture. So I think I do believe we're more aware and more health conscious than ever. And so now we're in this interesting space where people are searching, people are reading, they want the information. So platforms like this are critical to get the right information out now, because we are seeing people start reading more labels, watching documentaries, but even these documentaries you put out could be a hit or miss.
Exactly.
So times are changing, but I think it starts with education and awareness. And then I think it's about our culture, American culture is what you said earlier from those shirts is hustle, hustle, hustle. Right? Like we celebrate not sleeping. Team no sleep. We grind season.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it's about. Look, I'm up.
Yeah.
We don't celebrate sleeping. We don't celebrate shutting off. We don't understand the importance of it. Right? So I think it's a cultural thing as well. We need to continue to rethink some things. Even how we do business. Everybody just want to make money.
Exactly.
Money, 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 money. Like the platform that I was telling you about that we just launched, I had this interesting exchange with someone on my team where they were like, oh my goodness, we just launched an app. It's phenomenal. It's great. We're getting a lot of engagement. And I was talking about, what we were saying earlier, like athletes coming in, like I can go and put a program together because I have soreness or weakness in my knee, lower back, shoulder. We can literally prescribe this on our app and help people out, right? And these are things that are so natural. And we can also use our pro athletes that train with us to teach it, right? How cool would that be? And so I'm describing this, we're having this conversation, and he's like, yeah, we can upcharge them. It's another opportunity to make money. I said, let's stop right there. Right? Like when is enough enough? Right? Isn't it cooler just to have a lot of people rocking with you, because we all have missions and a why and that North Star. But then once you put that in place, you say, oh, this is what the company stand for. Then it's about, all right, how the hell do we monetize it? Right? It's about capitalism, right? Which I love making money. I'm an entrepreneur, but there has to be a thin line between, I just want your back to feel better, your knee to feel better. I want you to live better, live well. And then how much money can I make off of you? Like give it away. That's my thing with our company is give away as much as possible.
Well, you want to create a community.
That's right.
That then you can all bond around the same things, and then that's mutually beneficial all around.
That's right. That's right.
As opposed to trying to nickel and dime and it's like basically being instead of dollar wise penny stupid, you're becoming penny stupid dollar unwise. So
that's right. That's right.
smart.
100%. There's some people that's giving me things, taking care of me, and I've become like lifetime customers. It's like they do something different, new. It's like I'm there because I never forgot how you took care of me.
That's lost on our generation. I feel like everyone wants some kind of even exchange. Like, you hook somebody up. You're like, oh, I brought you a client. You're like, oh, you want a fee? What fee? No, I want us all to succeed, man. Like,
that's right.
It's crazy. But that happens a lot, right? Probably in NFL even more.
Yeah, this is a tough time for us right now. It's everyone has a brand. Everyone is trying to monetize and make money. I just look at, even like this platform, I believe this is great because when you do good, you get good. So I love that you're successful, but because you're able to continue to feed people great information and take care of your community, because that information is critical. Because you can go on YouTube, Google, whatever, and some terrible pop up, right?
Exactly.
So I believe in, you do good, you get good. My vision is for our company to be sitting over $1 billion on a $1 billion valuation within 5 years, right? Because I look at that as more opportunity to hire more people, to bless more families, and also my crazy vision, and that's when we go 5 to 10 year vision where we're sitting on pay me a $8 billion valuation, is to give away $400 million to the mental health community.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
Like that's my life. That's my financial goal. Okay. Right.
Specifically that number.
That's
400
it.
million.
Nothing else. Okay. Nothing else. That's my only goal. As an athlete, made $100 million in career earnings, right? We're doing some cool things in business right now. And my only financial goal is how much money can I give away? And that number that it was specific to me, I had this clear vision in 2014 of $400 million.
Okay.
So that's what I'm working towards. It was a 15-year plan. I got 9 years to go.
Okay. Mental health community or mental health foundation because of your past experiences?
On 100%.
Okay.
I mean, I think that I think purpose is the most important thing.
Sure.
Right? And it's hard to find, right? A lot of people are working, but they're not fulfilled. And if you find your purpose and you work towards that or work in that, then you're not like, you're just like living a life that is just filled with so much joy and so much just like, it's just it's an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
If you want to find your purpose and you don't know where it's at,
Okay.
look in your pain.
Was that a strategy you used?
That's how we get to the mental health discussion.
Okay. Well, tell me about it. Tell me about your journey.
Right. So in 2011, I found myself at McLean Hospital. I was there diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and I sat there for 3 months in an outpatient program. Dialectical behavior therapy, self-assessment, cognitive behavior therapy, mentalization therapy, one-on-ones with the great Dr. Gunderson. And I was there Monday through Friday from 9 to 5, right? And then from there, I would go train and work on my body. See, this is how the whole House of Athlete structure came together, right? Because I truly believe my 3 months were so amazing and transformational because I leaned in holistically, not just mentally. Okay, so I'm there for the mental part of it and mental health.
But you didn't neglect your physical side.
I'm training. I'm eating what I'm supposed to eat. Like, so I'm approaching my plate the right way. Just just simple stuff: healthy veggie, healthy fat, healthy protein, healthy carb. Right, 3-4 meals a day. Protein in between. So I'm on a routine, not just like, oh, I'm hungry. No, I knew when I was eating.
Sure.
Right. I had a community around me. So a support team, staff.
That's huge.
I was resting. I was shutting off around 10, 11.
Did you have social media at that time?
Twitter.
Okay.
Twitter
You
was
got the angriest social media going.
I know. Twitter was a thing. But even that, like, I really wasn't into social media until we started getting into business.
Got it. Okay, so you took a little bit of time away from that.
Yeah.
The only reason I ask is because I feel like there's so much toxicity on social media.
Oh, 100%.
Because it's like hard to disconnect from that.
You have to have boundaries there. But yeah, I was there for 3 months, and it totally changed my life. And that's where I found my why. And I realized that football was the platform, but it was not my purpose. And I spent 3 months with Harvard built out a case study and learning from athletes, entrepreneurs, and entertainers that did something well beyond their field or their screen, And so I was studying Livestrong, Lance Armstrong, Magic Johnson, Keanu Reeves, Boomer Esiason, and so on and so forth. And a couple people stood out to me, and what came out of it was content and commerce and pushing to this space. So that's how we got to this whole, House of Athlete thing, but it was in my pain, right?
Sure.
This thing that some people would say should break me or would break people. I mean, we lose people every day from suicide.
Yeah.
Right. And I looked at that and said, this is an opportunity to really tell my story and inspire people. So the goal initially was to raise awareness, because all, the athletes and artists and people that we see standing up today talking about anxiety, depression, it wasn't like that in 2011.
Yeah.
Like in my press conference, I stood up, I was like, we need to put faces to this.
Yeah.
Right. We need to walk the halls of Congress and look at how we're allocating this budget, because it's definitely not going to the people and going over here. It cost me $35,000 a month just to get the help I needed, just paying the hospital, and then another $15,000 in living expenses just to be able to continue to operate.
Sure.
Right. So those are the things we wanted to do. And I would say I thought it was going to take 20, 30 years to get to this place.
Wow.
From a mental health community standpoint. But man, it went from a taboo topic to an everyday conversation, and I'm excited about that.
How do you think you got so much success from a program like this, and others do end up on the wrong side of things and do succumb to their illnesses? What do you think the game changer is there?
Well, it presents itself in so many different ways. Every case is different. So I don't even think I'm capable of answering that question.
Well, what worked for you?
Yeah, well, it's that. So House of Athlete, here's our 5 pillars. Train, fuel, mental fitness, recover, and tribe. the fundamentals of that, right? So I think me leaning into the fundamentals and putting a routine around that is why I succeeded. Because now if you study Tom Brady, Serena Williams, LeBron James, and all of our top performing athletes, that the GOATs that we admire, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Monday, this is what I'm doing. Tuesday, this is what I'm doing. They know when they're waking up, when they're going to sleep, and everything in between. From having breakfast at this time, this is what I'm having for breakfast, right? They know it. We fucking go through life as human beings sometimes just like willy-nilly with no plan.
Yeah.
You're going to miss the mark 1,000% if you don't have a plan. I want to get in shape. Okay, well, tell me when you're eating breakfast.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you're eating lunch, when you're eating dinner, and what snacks you're having in between, and why you chose these foods.
Well, take me to 16-year-old Brandon. I'm talking to you when you're 16 years old. And I bet if I ask you, what do you think the life of an athlete is? You say ultimate freedom. But yet you're describing to me the exact opposite, right? Because when we're younger, we think, oh, when you're rich and you're at top of the game, you do whatever you want, you go wherever. But yet it's a very formulated, structured lifestyle. Otherwise, it's unhealthy.
That's right. Yeah, and because we think about just the performance side of it at that age. We don't think about recovery.
Yeah, because we recover like this when we're 16.
That's right. And we don't think about... well, how do I stay at a 4.4 speed from quarter 1 through 4?
Yeah.
We don't think about those things, right? And that doesn't really happen until you get now at the college level. We're having these conversations and we're doing some amazing things, and definitely at the pro level. But really, an athlete, it doesn't hit an athlete until their metabolism change for the most part.
Really? Okay.
But we are seeing more sophisticated athletes come in and it's like, damn, I wasn't doing this my rookie year.
Yeah.
Like the way they're taking care of their bodies now is totally different than what we were doing back then, right? It took like the veterans to sit me down and like, I wasn't getting a massage. I wasn't getting a cold tub. You know, these gurus that they had coming in talking about MAT, ART, and all these other modalities. They would do stuff, work on my body. I was like, man, this shit don't work, man. Like, no pain, no gain.
Yeah,
that was the mindset. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, you were cutting pieces off your pads and
oh yeah, and I'll still do that.
Yeah, you still do that?
I would still do that if I was playing.
Really?
Oh yeah, for sure.
But what about the protection? You're selling me the whole recover, protect.
Protection goes down, recovery needs to go up.
Oh no!
I gotta look good.
Okay.
You look good. You feel good. You feel good. You play good. You play good. You get paid good. That's Deion Sanders' quote, and I believe in that. And Tom Brady, even at, like I was listening to Tom Brady TB12 method and Greg, and people like, well, that's not for me. I can't do that. That's Tom Brady. That's his DNA is different. No, he was saying like he bleed the same way that everybody else does. He just works his ass off to recover. Meaning like he'll get hit. He'll have those bruises, and he knows what to do when that happens, right? Like it's all about getting your body back to baseline and out of compensation. If I get hit here, right, I know what I need to do to make sure I'm recovered, and then I'm not putting more wear and tear on this left knee or this lower side of my back, right? Yeah. So all the people out there who may be living in pain right now, dealing with lower back issues, knee issues, ankle issues, neck issues, it's a trickle down effect and a trickle up effect, right? So if you don't take care of that, you're just going to 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're going to be the crippled person that's walking around town, and we're all like, oh, that looks so sad. Yeah. So it's important for us to take care of ourselves. We have to prioritize our health.
Yeah. It's interesting that you're pointing out like the joint above and the joint below, because that's a philosophy that we learn in medical school now, at least in the medical school that I went to, because it's so easy for a patient to come in and say they have knee pain, and then we forget all about that their hip is thrown off, or it's their ankle instability that's leading to their knee pain. So you should have a doctorate degree at this point, man. Like you're talking at a really high level, just so you know that. That's really an accomplishment. I give you props for that.
No, I appreciate that. I think I feel like I can administer my own IV. I've gotten so many damn IVs,
okay,
right?
Now you're like, all right,
because we're surrounded by doctors like you all the time, right? So when we sit down,
osmosis,
you're like, that's what you will say to me. I come in, I'm like, doc, like the younger me, I'm like, doc, this is actually really good, because it gets back to like, when we really start getting as an athlete. Yeah. So if I was a rookie sitting with you and I'm like, hey doc, my knee hurt, right? And you're like, okay, Brandon, and you start checking stuff up here. Who the fuck is this guy? It's weird.
God, I hope my patients don't think this way.
What? Because I'm like, my knee hurt. What are you doing up here?
Sure.
What are you doing?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
I'm never coming back to your office,
Yeah.
right? So what happens over time is like that knee's not getting better. The knee's not getting better. Shit, doc, what were you saying again? You know, that might be year 2, might be year 3, year 4, whatever. And so you start educating. Well, Brandon, you got to understand that, you know, and this is where, you know, the doctors really separate themselves. There's a lot of people that have the science and have the skill, but can you communicate that to a patient where they understand it?
Facts.
So if you can talk to me and say, well, Brandon, trust me on this. I know you think that this is the problem, but this is just a symptom. We need to see where it's coming from. It could potentially be coming from this, right? Could be just trauma right here.
Yeah.
But it could be that your whole quad isn't even turned on because you took a hit from 2 years ago and it shut everything down. Now all of the force is going into your knee, right? So we got to get the force back into your muscle. So now you're not feeling this knee pain.
Yep.
So now I got to do TKEs. I got to do all this other stuff just to get this activated. But when you turn on a game, a Lakers game, and they get that shot of LeBron in the tunnel, he's on a Bosey ball doing rubber band stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell is he doing? Tom Brady doing all kinds of stuff.
That's injury prevention right there.
Yeah, and then it's also like, we can talk for days about this. I mean, I guess your audience, your 11 million subscribers
they love
and
this.
growing.
Yeah,
because if it was my audience, they'd be like, man, next.
No, this is
like they want to talk about like, tell me what happened when you played golf or played cards with Michael Jordan. Like,
well, I mean, if you want to talk about that too, I'm down to hear about that too.
Well, he didn't let me play cards actually.
Oh, why?
But no,
he was nervous about.
Huh?
He was nervous about you beating him.
No, he was nervous that I didn't have enough money.
Oh well, Michael Jordan has a lot of money.
A lot of money.
A lot of money.
So my first year in Chicago, after my first game, playing against the Colts, home game, we win. I had 2 touchdowns, and I'm in Chicago, right? Like this is to me the biggest sports town, in our country.
The Bears.
And it's the Bears, the Bulls, the Sox, the Cubs, the Hawks. Like everybody's like we got everything represented, and the fans are loyal, right?
Yeah, big time.
And so, anyways, I get a call from one of my buddies. It's not Philly.
Well, because Philly fans turn real quick.
Ooh, you might have some Philly fans.
No, because I used to be a Philly fan.
Really?
McNabb days, T.O. days, Pinkston days. I was a huge fan.
You're not a fan anymore?
I fell off watching football as much as I'd like because of this YouTube world, doctor world. So I don't get to watch as much as I'd like. But back then, I was a huge fan.
Bro,
I went to the Falcons-Eagles game.
I don't like that.
Why?
Because you gotta find some time for you to watch some ball.
So here's the problem: when you in life start getting more things to do, you start having to create priorities. What's important? And I was like, I wanted to become a boxer, so that took priority. I wanted to be a good doctor for my patient, that took priority.
So you don't miss football? Right?
I miss football like crazy. Are you kidding me?
You do?
Like even talking about the Damar situation on like social media on television, I was like, man, I miss my fantasy days.
Right. But
Sam's
you don't
a big football fan. I'm always talking to him about it.
It's hard for me to watch football and not talk about football.
Why?
Because of what you just said.
Oh, because you miss it.
Yeah, like I gotta really be intentional on like my schedule and.
I'm going to ask you a hard question.
Okay.
Do you think 49-year-old Terrell Owens should be on the field?
Hold on. Who's in your research department?
What do you mean,
Like,
right
which
here?
way
This
this
is
is going?
me
This
right
is
here.
you?
Do you
Okay.
see any notes?
Here's what I would say to that.
This is going to be a very politically correct statement.
No, one, T.O. need to sit his ass down.
I love it. Okay.
Okay, so no, he doesn't need to be playing. But I do think, and there's so much more to that.
Sure.
But I do believe, when you look at modern medicine and technology, there's no reason why athletes can't push it. Mm-hmm. Tom Brady's 45. Now, positions are different.
Yeah.
But I do believe athletes, the longevity and the lifespan of an athlete
has prolonged.
I don't be surprised if you start seeing more athletes play into their mid 40s and hell even push their.
Have we seen
50s.
a 50-year-old? I'm sure we've seen a punter that's a 50-year-old.
I think Vinatieri, very good
See,
one.
I
And
watched
then
some football back in
also, Testaverde maybe. Vinny Testaverde was pushing it. Mm-hmm. But you got LeBron. Look what LeBron's doing as well.
Yeah.
He's been playing at a.
He's like 25 right now, basically.
There you go. High level, no.
No, I'm saying he's playing like he's 25.
Oh, yeah, correct. Yeah. So what I'll say is T.O. need to sit his ass down. But if there was an athlete that could do it, you know what I'm saying? It would be T.O.
Yeah.
But there's so many other things.
But
it's
I just don't want to see him get hurt either.
Well, my biggest thing with it's like they're And I don't know, because, and I don't know if anybody knows his why behind it, but it just, sometimes it's sad seeing, our athletes like just hold on just too long.
Sure.
You know what I mean? That transition can be hard for a lot of us, because
tough,
the sport is our identity for a lot of us, right? And so if you take that away, then what do I have?
Sure.
I
totally see the identity aspect of it. I see it in fighters a lot. There's also a level of it being a distraction. In your Monday through Friday training, Saturday maybe you have off, Sunday's game day, and you repeat that process over and over again. Right. And then when there's quietness, there's stillness, there's nothing to do that you have to accomplish, right. All of a sudden, anxiety creeps in, depression kicks in, at least the depressive thoughts, the anxious thoughts. And it could take you to a bad place if you're not ready for it, if you don't have prep, if you don't create your own schedule.
That's right.
Because before, the sport would give you that discipline.
That was the hardest thing in my transition.
Really?
Was creating a schedule.
Tell me about that.
Every day I had an itinerary since I was 18, right? You had high school football. So I had routine and a schedule there. But when you get to college, every minute is accounted for up until you go to sleep. So I had this itinerary my entire college career, obviously 4 years at University of Central Florida, and I played 13 years in the National Football League. And literally that entire time, my time was accounted for. And on paper, walk in, okay,
here's the schedule.
Team meeting is at 8 a.m., then we're going to transition into, the head coach, the, special teams. Then we're going to come back and do offense and defense. Then we're going to go do wide receiver meetings. Then we have a little break. And then you come in, you got a little bit of time to regroup when it comes to, recovery. Then you got workouts. Then you have a walkthrough. Then you go to practice. And then after practice, you have 20 minutes to go do what you need to do. And then you have offensive meeting. Then after your offensive meeting, everybody go to their segment meetings. From your segment meetings, you're sitting with your wide receivers, what's specific to us. And then after that, you're going to do some more recovery stuff. Then you go home and then you have your own little schedule, right? So everything was there. When you stop playing ball, you have to create that for yourself, right? And I think that's why a lot of us struggle, is because you wake up with all this idle time. It's like, what do I do, right? And we stop that routine and we stop taking care of ourselves. That's why we see a lot of us struggling. I've been taking care of my body all this time. I'm gonna start eating what I want. I'm not gonna work. I've been doing this my whole life. No, whether you're an athlete or not, you still need to fucking live well and feel good, right? So we stop all of that and we don't know how to put that schedule in place. So like now, running a team, building teams, launching new products. Like I didn't even know when to check my emails. I look up, I got freaking 1,000 emails.
Sure.
I'm like, damn, is this corporate America? Just sit on your phone all day checking emails? Yeah. And it's like when to do that. I don't know. Like I look up at the end of the day, I'm tired. Now I got 50 mails in my inbox. I'm like, I'll do it till the next day. Now it piled up. So I had to find a way, like, okay, this is when you're going to check your email so it doesn't get, all backed up, right? When I run team meetings, when am I going to meet with this person, that person? When am I going to take care of myself in this process?
Yeah, that structure is important because it creates discipline without you even thinking about it. It creates habits. Right. And habits don't take a lot of mental energy to execute a habit because it's just what you do. Like you don't have to force yourself to drink a glass of water. It's a habit. I drink a glass of water when I wake up. Where I see a parallel in this, I just said I treat all my patients like athletes. There's a parallel with men who retire have the same issues that athletes when they retire, 30 years, 40 years down the line. They retire, they have this huge celebration. They used to have the structure of work, waking up at this time, this, that, and then it goes away, and then they fall into a dark place. And that's why we see our depressive rates and suicide rates higher in those over the age of 65 after they retire, specifically for men. So it's interesting that the same process that goes through with a professional athlete happens with men in that age group. This is something I talked to Reggie Bush about last weekend. And I'm curious about your take. And if you don't even want to talk about it, that's fine. But I'm curious as a doctor. NFL has gotten a lot of pushback for being a dangerous sport. A lot of NFL players are saying they don't even want their kids to play. Concussions are a big issue. These are all things important to talk about. But then you hear whisperings of players saying, I got medications to be pain-free to play. I got Toradol injections. I got Percocet in order to be able to practice. Do you think that that's a widespread practice, or do you think these are like individual outlier moments?
Every case is different, but definitely it was a widespread practice, but it could show up differently in every team, depending on physicians administering these things and also leading these teams. They've cracked down on a lot of these prescription drugs and the Toradol stuff. When I first got in the NFL, 2006, we left team meeting. So this is the night before the game.
Okay.
So night before the game in the NFL, you could be home or away. You're staying in a hotel.
Ooh,
Okay. So let's say we're home, Denver Broncos. We're in Denver. Get in my car. Got to be at the team hotel, checked in by 6 p.m. Team meeting starts at 8. And then we go into that same cycle that I talked about. So the whole team is together. Then you separate into special teams, come back together, offense over here, defense over here. After that, then the receivers meet together, running backs meet together, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. After those meetings, they have food and then also treatment set up in the conference rooms. Okay. And then you can make your way to your hotel room by 11 p.m. is curfew.
Okay.
All right. So my very first time going through this, walked out of that receiver room, that last meeting that I had, and I walked by one of the rooms in this whole conference center that we were in, and I seen a line of guys lined up with their pants like almost
ready to get
underneath their butt or like their belts open. And I stopped at peak. I'm like, what the hell y'all doing? It's like, oh, we about to get a Toradol shot.
Oh no.
Right?
Yeah.
So the night before the game, you would see a line of guys just boom, 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 boom. And a Toradol shot is almost like it just masks the pain to make you feel better. It helps with inflammation and all of that. And I do think it's needed at times, but I do think that there's been some teams and some players that's overdone it. I'm one of those players. It was when the NFL stopped doing this stuff and start really cracking down on some of these practices, you had a lot of players that were so used to that. I don't even call it if it's addicted. That was like, well, how am I going to finish?
Yeah.
How am I going to finish? So what I end up doing is going to the black market, finding Toradol pills because the teams wouldn't give it to us.
Okay.
Right. So literally up until, I like damn near retired, I would have my own little prescription bottle of Toradol and I didn't overuse it. But when I needed it, I was like, okay, cool. Boom. And then another story, right? And these are just real. And I think it's important to talk about these things because for the next generation of players, right? Because if you take care of yourself and you recover, you do more preventative work and there's new things that you can do out there, you won't get caught up in that cycle
of pain.
And then some players, now we're talking about a lifetime battle with addiction, depression, suicide. It can get really bad. Yeah. But playing for the Chicago Bears, really wanted to play in this Sunday night football game. I think the 49ers going into their new stadium. It was going to be a wild night. The week before, I hurt my high ankle sprain. They said I was supposed to be out maybe 4 to 6 weeks, right? It was a bad ankle sprain.
Well, high ankle sprain's tougher than lower.
Yeah, tough. So now I have 7 days to try to find a way.
Wow.
So the team's like, hey, we're just going to just rule you out. Don't practice. Don't do that. I was like, listen, I probably won't be able to practice, but don't make a decision until after warm-ups on Sunday, on game day. So it's like, okay. So like I got art therapy coming in, with Dr. Dennis, doing some cool things there. And, I'm soft tissue work, ice, heat,
probably screaming and
everything. And doing everything, right? And so I get out there and right before everybody was gonna come out to warm up, I went out there and the general manager, the coaches, everybody was there. What I did before I went out to that warm up, I took like 4 pain pills, 2 Toradols.
Oh my God.
Like I was high as hell on the field because I really wanted to play, right? So I go out there and I actually look pretty good.
Well, yeah.
I ended up scoring 3 touchdowns.
You probably forgot you had a leg because you took.
Right. And I end up scoring 3 touchdowns.
I know we're laughing at it, but that's really bad. Like we don't want.
Yeah,
to do that.
but it's a great story to highlight like where some of our athletes can potentially be.
Do you think like your
Did I tell you I
overuse-
scored 3 touchdowns?
Yeah,
Sam?
I mean,
You didn't really acknowledge that.
I'm going to acknowledge
Can you
the fact
acknowledge
that you're the highest
how fucking good
Pro
that was?
Bowl
Can you
TD
acknowledge before we even do that?
receptions.
Can you acknowledge how good having been on one leg?
All right, I'll tell you what I
Supposed to
thought
be
you were
out
going to say.
4 to 6 weeks.
I thought you were going to
Okay.
say you jumped and you realized you couldn't walk. I thought that's the story you were going to tell.
No, I scored 3 touchdowns.
That's impressive.
One of
That's
my
really
greatest
impressive.
catches.
But again, we're laughing, but we not encourage
right.
this behavior. No, but my curiosity comes from, did you think that using those substances, like basically, were you counseled on the risks every time those lines were there? You think players knew what they were doing, or they just were like, oh, this feels good and the doctors are doing it, so let's do it? Or they knew that this was had drawbacks?
Yes and no, right? Like, and like I said, it depends on what team you're on, and who's the physician, right? Yeah. You know, some of the, a lot of the doctors actually, they'll go and say, okay, this is, what is it, naproxen and Celebrex and all these things. Like, look, whatever.
All these anti-inflammatories.
Yeah, right. So like some of the doctors will hit it, but it's like fine print. Like think about like the fine print when we buy things or whatever. Of course, yeah, you just it's kind of like that type of deal.
It's like on the radio when they
like just
yell
know,
like
right.
5 sentences.
And sometimes it's just like one of those things like, hey, here goes some naproxen, here goes some Celebrex, and it's not even a conversation.
By the way, this is probably, doesn't matter to say now, but your Toradol pills are not that much different than ibuprofen.
Yeah.
It's only different when it's injected because it's a little faster acting and absorbs a little better. But otherwise, you were just taking a bunch of ibuprofen.
Oh, nice.
So you weren't even doing anything that crazy.
Expert, yeah. The doctor expert. But the problem is when you're popping 2 or 3 of those pills for an entire year or a couple
when you're
years
doing
in a
it
row.
consistently, the kidneys suffer.
And you know how I got off of all this Celebrex?
You started sleeping well?
Keep going.
You started eating well?
There you go.
And you focused on your mental
nutrition.
health?
No, just do nutrition. That's it. So like the name of the game, like sickness and disease live in what? Inflammation.
Sure.
Right? A lot of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
So, I mean, that's whenever there's inflammation, that means your immune system's doing something. So that's usually a problem.
Correct. So we need to fight that. And a lot of times we don't understand, like every time we put something in our mouth, our body's having a chemical reaction, good or bad. Right? So even a piece of chicken or whatever, like you got to understand your system and how these things react, how your body reacts to anything that you eat or drink. And so I went through like this extreme testing where, I went through some tests, blood tests, and understanding what foods work for me and which foods don't. And I went from before this plan taking me an hour to 90 minutes to warming up. Right, you know how you get on a plane, you have your socks on, you take them off, and you can see the pitting edema and all of that sweating.
Probably eating a ton of sodium and stuff.
Correct, all of that stuff to clean up my plan, my nutritional plan, eating better, right, and all that gone, and going from 90-minute warm up to not even have to warm up at all.
Wow,
right, and I picked up on that plan from the locker room. Ricky Williams and Ronnie Brown, they were eating just like some stuff. I'm like, why aren't you eating the stuff that they cook for us? Like, oh no, we got our own little chef, and this is our plan. I was like, okay, cool. And they connected me with the guy, and it was phenomenal. It was Dr. Sarah Melman Diet, but it's Dr. Leon who runs it now. His mother passed, so they do some great things down there for a lot of athletes.
Well, for the people that can't afford their own chefs that are listening and maybe can't get the testing done, like all these things.
But you can now. It's more affordable now. There's companies
but foundationally, if you go back to what you said, those things, you're going to get those benefits.
Right.
Like at the end of the day, like the 1 to 5% benefit that you needed to be the pro athlete, most people don't need that 1 to 5% benefit.
That's right.
They need the foundations to be good. Because what I see in my practice, and I see this by the hundreds and thousands, is the people that need improvements by 50% just by changing the 3 things you talked about.
There you go. Yeah. And then also, like what I said earlier, what's a healthy veggie?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't even know what a healthy veggie, a healthy carb is, or like portion control.
Sure.
It's like sometimes we eat the right foods, but we're eating way too much. Right. So it goes back to what you're saying, the fundamentals. Exactly. I agree. And that's what my whole mission is. My whole business is built off of the fundamentals. That's what athletes master. But then you have other athletes that may come in a locker room, right? Because like that, there was only 3 or 4 of us on that plane. Everybody else was eating the stuff was in the cafeteria, which was the healthy, everything else.
Well, I don't know about healthy in the locker rooms. In the hospitals, we serve the worst foods, burgers, chicken wings.
We got some of that.
And I'm like, what do we, like, this is a hospital. Like, we're supposed to be training the good habits.
Right.
And yet it's the worst.
Right.
Click here to check out a video about the worst fitness mistakes that my patients make, and maybe it'll motivate you to start a workout plan. As always, stay happy and healthy.